Greetings and
Don't panic, because if you live in England, and I suspect particularly in London, in certain areas of London, if I was to call you a right Waza...
Oh, it's a derogatory tone, but Americans won't know that.
They won't know that. And obviously in Japanese, Waza, or how would you pronounce that, do you think? Waza probably, means art and technique. So Boss, been around for a long time, I believe since the late 70s, and certainly all of our guitar heroes, or certainly all the kind of the late 70s, 80s
Joe
kind of guitar heroes, everybody, Eddie Van Halen,
Joe Satriani,
all those kind of guys. You couldn't see a picture of one of their pedal boards that didn't have Boss pedals on it, and they were just the go-to pro built like a tank pedal. Now, two things have kind of happened over the last 30 years. Is it 30 or 40 years now? It's 30, 40 years. Is Boss, in my opinion, have kind of decided that they needed to become more and more competitive, and as such the pedals have become more mass produced with lower costing components in them, so that they can hit the sort of price points that would mean that every kind of guitar player can afford them. And other brands of pedals that didn't exist all those times ago, that have kind of taken over the mantle of sourcing premium components and taking a lot of care and attention and time to sort of run sort of small runs. And so Boss is kind of the perception is they sort of were up here, and now the perception is Boss is sort of down here a little bit, and other brands are up here.
Not affordable, but kind of here.
Yeah, reliable, middle of the road. That's probably the thing. So tell us the Yoshi story.
Well, the weirdest thing was that I was contacted at the NAMM show and asked if I would be allowed, if it was okay for me to have a visitor to my flat. And you had a similar story. Someone asked if you wouldn't
Didn't
mind
want to come to my flat though.
No,
they just wanted to come to the shop.
A visitor come to your shop, and I was like, well, yeah. Who's going to be coming to my flat? And they said, oh, Yoshi, he's the director of.
He is basically Mr. Boss. He's the boss.
The boss of Boss, and I'm like, you're kidding me. And I'm like, no, we're deadly serious. He wants to come to your flat and chat to you about Boss pedals and Boss products.
Like the future.
And just the future and any recommendations that I had, any suggestions that I had. And I was obviously kind of in shock and blown away and was like, and then spent half a day making sushi and little snacks for them when they turned up. And he was really, really lovely.
Yeah.
And spoke really good English, and we had a proper good on banter about what I thought Boss could do that would be really cool. And it turns out that Lee had almost exactly the same experience.
Pretty identical experience. And in fairness, not just Rob or I. Lots of whether they're influential people around the world who basically said to Boss, look, come on guys, you need to get back to that. Fair enough if you want to carry on doing your sort of affordable range and everything, that's cool. But
back to your roots.
you got to get back in the sort of the pro zone.
What was kind of cool was that Lee and I both unbeknowingly recommended the same sort of ideas to Yoshi.
And interestingly, this is where there's a sort of a bit of a dilemma, I think, within the Roland ranks. You guys, if you didn't know, Boss is kind of like another brand, a part of the Roland Corporation. And for a long time, Roland, who are very much a technology sort of music company, had a mantra that was, don't look backwards, just let's push the technology, keep moving forward. And that kind of flowed into Boss, and that's why you saw a lot of these sort of multi-dimensional digital pedals coming out over the last 2 or 3 years, and what boundaries could they push using new technology. Now, of course, all of us sort of dullard guitarists here are sort of going, but we like old stuff.
Guitar players like old things.
And tube amplifiers, and we like 1980s.
We do take in some of the new, but we resist it at first, and then we go, okay, fair enough.
So we're kind of like, look, and what happened, I think, within the Roland group was Boss was sort of unleashed, and Roland sort of went, well, okay, perhaps you go and do your own thing then. So Roland will still be very much this it's all about the future and how can we make things technologically more superior. But Boss, if it's correct to go and revisit some old products that you used to make and try and work out why they were, what is it that was good about the old stuff, then you go do that. So
we said make some pedals.
Waza Craft. This is, I guess, going to be an expanding new line for Boss. Currently has 3 pedals in it. 3 pedals of which
clap.
3 pedals of which one has great heritage and is, and has been a popular top-selling pedal for ever and ever and ever. One over here, that's the Super Overdrive, sorry. The one which hasn't been made for a long time, which is the DM2 analog delay and has now been reintroduced. And one which is a relative sort of newbie. I mean, the Boss Blues driver came out in the 90s, so but it's always been such an enormously popular pedal for Boss that they decided to include that in their sort of Waza Craft. In terms of manufacturing, these are all still built in the same place that Boss are made, but the key difference here is these have been completely redesigned internally. All discrete components, discrete inputs, super high quality components, and every single one of these pedals prior to coming to the stores is sent back to Japan for a team of sort of Boss's finest guys to test every single one, make sure that tonally it's the right way for it to be. So
think ultra mega deluxe Boss pedals.
Yeah, and just they're just better sounding, I guess, than what you get at the.
And what's quite cool is that the ones they've released make a really good rig.
Well, you certainly, the delay pedal and one of the drives.
Because what you got here is kind of crunchy, drive your amp from a clean sound into a kind of crunchy sound, and then turn it into a lead side, and you got some delay on the side as well.
Shall we start with the delay, just because?
You're right.
So what you're going to hear is we'll probably do most of the talking around Rob playing. Rob's using the Victory V10 behind me. We've got the delay through an effects loop and the 2 drive pedals.
Got
in the
half
front
a Gibson
end.
guitar.
He's got one of these things called a Custom Light, which is like a thin Les Paul Custom, which we're going to do another video on another time. I'm going to have a bit of a noodle with a Strat, and what you'll hear me is going through a Fender amp, but where I'm using the delay pedal just after the drive pedals, but still into the front end. One of the cool things, and I think one of the reasons the DM2W, the Waza DM2, has been so heavily pre-ordered, is one of the things that Roland have done is increased the delay time to 600 milliseconds. Normally analog delay pedals are a very quite on their maximum setting is still a relatively short delay time, but so this I don't know if I'm making a claim that this is now the longest analog delay pedal,
but it's certainly very long.
Yeah, it may well be, but it's certainly long. I'm just going to quickly tell you what the knobs do. So the little switch in the middle, S and C, is what's called standard and custom. So standard is as per the original DM2, and then if you put it into custom, that's where you get the extra delay time from. Now this will freak a few of you out. The repeat rate, which on most pedals you'd call like delay time, so the amount of how much gap there is between each echo, works in reverse. So the longest delay is all the way to the left, and the shortest delay is all the way to the right.
Well, it doesn't work in reverse, it's just its repeat rate, so the rate of repeat gets faster as you increase the knob.
And that apparently is how the original DM2 worked. If you see the little arrow underneath where it says input, where my finger is, it says rate. You can put an expression pedal into this to control the delay time or the repeat rate, but that also works in reverse. So if you like, heel down would be the longest delay, toe down would be the shortest delay. So that's what that one does. The one in the middle is the sort of the volume of the echo. And the one on the right, the intensity, you might know as sort of feedback, but essentially it's the number of repeats, and that's where if you whack that up, you can get those kind of crazy infinite kind of feeding back.
It's like a car engine, because as you put your foot down, the engine goes.
That's a great analogy.
There you go.
But of course, if you've ever owned another delay pedal, it'll probably confuse you, like
the
it
other
did
way
us.
Yes.
So essentially, what's going to happen now is Rob's going to play. I am just going to literally fiddle with these. Rob loves it when Rob loves it when I fiddle with his knobs whilst he's playing.
Being in a Radiohead.
If I yeah, I mean, it always is in delay demos, isn't it? Roland announced this about, I don't know, 6-8 weeks ago. And although this is the first time I've actually heard a real one, I already know that Andertons has taken dozens and dozens of pre-orders for these. So much anticipation about the DM2W. So anyway, let's move on. Okay, so we've got a couple of drive pedals here. As you can see, we've got the blues driver and we've got the super overdrive over here. Essentially, I might start with the super overdrive first, just because they're sort of pushing the super overdrive as of a kind of a tube screamery vibe. So the idea being is that we ought to
crunch,
we'd start with a slightly crunchy tone, a little bit of grit there, and then depending on how much gain you pull in, will either depend whether it's something you just use as a rhythm tone or as a lead tone. So the blues driver is a more, conventional, find an amp with a bit of a clean tone and just play with this. Now, Boss again say that one of the reasons the blues driver has been so popular over the years, and particularly something they've worked very hard with on this one, is to get that kind of dynamic response that you'd get from a tube amplifier, where you really interacts well with how you pick and use of the volume control on the guitar.
It is very responsive, actually. You feel it changing the way a valve amp kind of would do.
Yeah.
That's my favourite pedal so far.
Yeah, I like the delay pedal and I like the blues driver as well.
I like them all at the same time, though, Bestly.
I certainly think the super overdrive, though, is probably the one with the sort of the daddy heritage, isn't it? That's the lots and lots of kind of those. You always used to see these sat in front of Marshall 70s kind of tube heads, just to sort of push it into that.
I used to own one, and I put it in front of a Marshall little rack preamp. Remember those?
The JMP one?
Yeah, I had a JMP one, I had a BBE Sonic Maximizer, I had an SD one. And
spandex trousers.
No, I had leather trousers.
And probably wore makeup.
Leather trousers, leather fingerless gloves, without the metal on them.
Epic.
Can we hear all three at the same time then?
Yes. We don't need that one anymore.
Nah.
Do we? All three at the same time. What
Yeah, so
am I do with
like I
this?
did before, like we just did both the gains and the delay. It's just a great sound. I mean, it's a little bit thin because we're keeping the volume a bit low.
Yeah.
But that works nicely as a trio. The energy's a bit lower than normal because Lee's a bit ill.
A little bit ill, but I'll be fine. I'm going to play some guitar and then it'll all be cool.
But also, we had a massive breakfast.
We had a massive break. That was a mistake, wasn't it? So I've rejigged this now. So I'm going into the blues driver, then the super overdrive, and then the delay. So
can I now say that for the entire time I was sat there, I thought that this Waza Craft lit up, but actually it's just super shiny.
It's very shiny,
metallic sticker.
So this would be how you would use the delay if you didn't have an effects loop in your amplifier, or as I'm doing now, where I'm really only using an amp for a clean sound, and so there's not really any downside to just plugging the delay in the front end. Do that one on its own. I liked the blues driver on its
Blues
own.
hammer.
Nothing really wrong with that, is there?
No. You know he's probably also going to use this setup.
Who's
Richie
that?
Sambora.
Richie Sambora.
I'm going to get excited.
Hope so. I hope so. It'll
Yeah,
be awesome.
probably.
It's bleeding hot in here, isn't it? I will see you next time.
Chappers out.